I'm like, here.
It's illness.
Really mess with you.
Parent. What's that?
That's good.
No.
The father, not the young one.
The good old boys. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it is.
That's why I got kicked out of the second group.
End of the year.
Oh, no. Like some
Long time. Long time.
So where we belong.
No, I don't know how it's gonna hit me. Pretty fun.
You streaming? Okay.
I'm good, where are you?
You passing that chocolate
Oh, man.
for the baby? Yeah, he needs it. Thank you. And outside. Sure, mine's on silent.
Mine wasn't.
75. Where did these go?
So many decisions this evening. So yeah. It's kind of time we all were.
Here comes stuff in Texas.
I'm Henry today.
Okay, I just got the thumbs up from our tech person. We are now live and good evening. Welcome to this next round of our 2023 budget marathon. As always, the watchword is crisp. And with that, we will turn it over to Jay Franklin to report on behalf of our assessment department. Thank you, Jay.
Oh, good afternoon or evening, everyone. Let me get my presentation on.
Did he hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right,
Right. Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't hear me, thanks for having us here on this lovely evening. Good to see the sun out, and I'm in a windowless conference. But here's my, let me share my presentation here. All right. Hopefully that's up.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. So I took this picture because this signifies a data collection project that we have to use. We're really starting to see those external influences to value. And this would be a good indication of just how beautiful our landscape is from the aerial with all of the ponds and brush and, you know, it's, I don't know. I really like looking at aerial photographs. I like my job. So I wanted to touch on our major influences here to our budget. Obviously, it's the growth in the real estate market that's really driving what we're doing here. You know, our supply of houses hasn't kept up with our demand. I've talked about it before all of you, that we're building houses at what we built back in the 40s at that rate. We're just simply not keeping up with the demand that people want for their new houses. Along with that not building new houses, the life cycle of housing doesn't continue. You know, you buy your starter home, you move into your family home, maybe a bigger family home, and then you downsize. When people can't move to that next house, then their house doesn't become available as well. Kind of stunts that life cycle of housing. Oops, where'd you go? So my next influence is the growth in the real estate market. We're starting to see new factors come into play. As I showed you with that aerial, people want those external influences to value. The creeks, the ponds, the wetlands, really any of the value view sheds that are external to their property that they can enjoy from their property are what people are looking for today. decks, sheds, kitchens. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more productive when I'm sitting on my patio furniture and laying down than when I'm sitting on my couch and laying down. At least I'm outside being productive. Another influence is the growth in the real estate market. The sales of commercial properties that we're seeing, we haven't seen this deviation from their income that they can generate since the 80s. I'm shocked at all of these sales that are coming through, and I think a lot of these deals are being done with future appreciation coming into play. And as the assessor, I don't think I could tell someone, I think your property is worth more today because it's going to be worth more tomorrow. I don't have a crystal ball. If we did, we wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be a developer enjoying my retirement. And finally, we're dealing with the growth in the real estate market. But there's a little bit of uncertainty, at least in my mind, as we move forward. Back at the beginning of COVID, you could refinance or get a mortgage at around 3.125%. On the typical median home in the county, your principal and interest payment would be about $773. So if you took your 225 median house, you put your 20% down payment on, that's going to be your principal and interest payment. At 5.75 today, that principal and interest payment increases 36% to $1,050. And I keep hearing interest rates are going to creep up again. If they go up to 6.5%, that principal and interest payments $1,137, or 47% higher than what it was at the beginning of COVID. At some point, the demand has to start equaling our supply once you start seeing numbers like that. Money isn't infinite. It's not just ones and zeros. It's actually something real and something tangible that people have a finite supply of. But that's really what we're dealing with, is just a growth in the real estate market that I hasn't seen in my 27 years in the business, and Irene hasn't seen in her years in the business.
37 years.
Don't let him force you into revealing that, Irene.
All right.
So here's our budget. We had an oddity in our 2022 line on what was given to us. Our solid waste, the amount of money that we charge our solid waste department for managing the solid waste annual fee wasn't billed in 2021, but it got put in 2022. So it kind of didn't look correct. We also had federal revenue of the ARPA funds. I didn't really think that was revenue, and I didn't want that to cloud this discussion. So we are seeing a decrease in our revenue, but that's really just from our termination of the contract with Covert. Other than that, revenue remains the same. Expenses are pretty much the same as before. We didn't ask for any over target requests. But so here's our full-time equivalents. We'll be at 13.3, essentially pretty much the same as we were last year, just different amount of time. But I would like to note that back in 2000, we did have 19 people. And I don't know how many other departments have experienced a 43% decrease in their staffing. Ideally, we'd be at about 15 people, but due to budget, due to space, we really can't get there yet. Hopefully at some point, we'll be able to get back up to that kind of desired staffing level. One thing I do want to get on your radar, we weren't able to get it in for this budget year, but we will need a new CAMA, Computer Assisted Mass Appraisal Database. New York State has provided one. They designed it in the 90s. It is way past the end of its life. They started to build a new one. They got 87% of the way complete and stopped that project with Tyler Technologies. New York State hasn't said why they stopped it, but what I've heard, it was either too complex for the average New York State assessor, or it was too expensive and they needed that money to go to other programs. Either way, I'm not warm and fuzzy about what they're going to be able to produce. But we'll keep an eye on that. We always have Tyler Technologies ready to go in the background if we ever need to make that decision. But that's all of me. I'll stop my share. So if you have any questions, Irene or I will be able to answer.
Okay, does anybody have a question for Jay? Randy?
Hi, Jane, Irene, I just didn't want to let you off the hook. You talked in a previous email or discussion about changing assessments to every 3 years. What impact would that have on your budget if that happened?
It wouldn't have any impact if we went to a 3-year cycle. And I can't say that because in the 3rd year, we're going to need more clerical staff to be able to handle the notices that are going out, to be able to schedule those appointments. So there will be an added cost there for postage. In years 1 and 2, in those 2 interim years, we have the staff, we have the funding to be able to capture what we need in order to get those numbers out. So if you do decide to go to a triennial next Tuesday, we're prepared and funded to be able to do that. That's kind of the gist of going to it. To stay on annual, I would need 4 appraisers. The money would be easy to get. Being able to find qualified individuals that want to come work for us, that would be the hard part. And that would be the impossible part, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question for Jay? I don't see any questions as usual, Jay. You've stumped us. So thank you for your presentation, and I guess you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night to you and Irene.
Thank you. See, that was nice and crisp. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Okay. And next up, we have our amazing Maureen Reynolds, the best county clerk in New York State. No pressure.
I'll bring you a bottle of wine later, Deborah.
Okay.
All right, so we have our budget here for 2023 for the county clerk's office in DMV. So I follow Jay. Yeah, we've had a really active real estate market. It's been crazy, like you said. I've been working in the clerk's office since 1989. I have never seen a market like this. I could never have dreamt of a market like this. One of the things that we have been doing, though, with all the court records and all the recordings that come in, is we're having law firms do a lot of it electronically, which reduces a lot of foot traffic in our office. It makes our staff much more efficient. With our court cases, we are at 90% being e-filed versus paper filings, which is good because I always say attorneys charge by the inch because those court cases come in that big late in the day and we're scanning all day. So it saves us a lot of time with that. For e-recording, we're about 55% is electronic now. We have e-recording partners that work with us. And, within a matter of minutes, land closings are just recorded very quickly, alerting everybody if there's any problems. And we are the most technologically advanced county clerk's office in New York State. I can brag about that because I know we are that. So with all these sales, the transfer tax revenue to the county has just skyrocketed. You can see in just, 2020 was a bad year. People had to figure it out. 2021, it just went crazy. Right now, I don't see us coming in probably close to what we had in 2021 for the transfer tax. We see prices for houses that are just crazy and people are buying them very quickly. So. And the next slide, we're going to talk about mortgage tax. So that went absolutely crazy in 2021. I don't see it being as high in 2022, only because refinances have cut back due to the interest rate. People are still buying the houses, they're still borrowing the money. And when I drive up and down the streets, like the other day, I drove up Cuga Street and like everybody was putting on a roof or painting the house. So people are getting home equities still. It's just the refinancing has stalled. Now, one of the things we do also is I'm the records management officer for the county, and with my amazing deputy Alana, who handles most of the Laserfish stuff, When we did this, I thought it was a meme, but it's really a meme, she told me. So it's because I'm old. But so I had put down that we are one of the most successful shared services in New York State. I really think we're probably the most successful. I don't know of all of the shared services out there, but for records management, we are. Most counties are trying to play catch up and they're like 13 years behind us. So we're pretty proud of what we've done. With Laserfish, we host it for all county departments, all municipalities and courts in Tompkins County, Cortland County, and 5 of their municipalities. And then we have the DMV. And so I do have the best DMV in the universe, and I can say that. No one can take that away from us. We have some observations. We have a limited supply of new cars that are being sold right now through the dealerships. This week, we did see a bunch of 2022s and some 2023s, which we haven't seen. So that was good. Used cars are selling for crazy prices because people can't get the new cars. Also, if you're leasing, a lot of people are buying out at the end of their lease because they couldn't get the cars for a while. Unfortunately, during COVID, more people went online to do transactions. New York State is always trying to take away anything they can that's easy and quick. And stick us with the hard stuff that we, don't get as much money for, but we are still doing pretty good down at our DMV. And our local dealers and Cornell and different big fleets, we've gone out to them and asked them to keep all their dealer work processed through our office. And we appreciate it. They do bring all their work to us to do. So it does keep the money that's, we can keep it in the county here. So there are some changes at the New York State DMV. They're talking about a permanent registration sticker on vehicles. So for as long as you own a vehicle, you will have the same sticker. You'll just need to renew it every 2 years. When it's sold, a new sticker is put on. They're talking about driver suspension reform. So before, they used to suspend your license for unpaid fines. They're not doing that as much anymore. And a lot of ones that were suspended have been released as of in March. I think they started releasing a bunch of them. So we're going to see more changes in that coming. And we finally got our new gender marker. So we have the F, the M, and the X now. So we can put that on people's licenses and ID cards. Bless you. They have also allowed CDL to be for drivers 18 to 20 to take the CDL test. Before it was the age of 21. We're trying to get more CDL drivers out there. And then New York State, they try to take all the work and online and, the pink envelopes mailed back to Utica. But during COVID and afterwards, they found out they can try to get it all in there, but they don't have the staff to process it. So now they're letting us get our mail-in renewals back here in Ithaca. So we're processing those again here. They couldn't keep up. They were actually taking them in Albany and shipping them all back to us. And now they just have them mailed here. So they gave up on that. And like I said, New York State DMV, I go to their transparency page to see what they're doing because they don't always tell us. And I can see what they're trying to come up with next. Our association is working very hard to get a larger retention, both on what comes in our office and what's done online, because New York State DMV needs us and they know they need us. So we're going to really work on that in the future. So. The big thing coming up next year, you'll see from people is that you're going to have a real ID in order to board a domestic flight. And so we're going to see more in-office traffic for that, just because people are going to have to change their licenses and IDs to get on a domestic air flight. And then here's my staff, which I'll tell you what, I have 2 offices in separate places and I sure could never do any of this stuff by myself. So they're incredible. And for our budget, I don't really always understand it with the way the expenditures and revenues are. The only thing that we're asking for an over target is new software for the county clerk's office. We're hoping to go to a cloud-based software so that it alleviates needing all the stuff, all the servers at ITS and getting it up in the cloud. And so we're looking at it. We have the cost of the software. for the service contract and the cost of the software for doing the conversion of all of our documents and data, so. And that's 140,000. Okay, sorry. And with the FTEs, we're down to 18.5 from 2020's 20.75. As we get more efficient, we try to reduce staff. So most of this was done through retirements, and we got rid of the mail room. So that's it. Any questions?
Okay, questions for Maureen. I see Rich and then Lee.
Hi, Maureen.
Hey.
Great to see the news from the clerk's office. The Real ID, is that going to lead to a revenue bump, do you think, between
Yes.
now and next May?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to force people to come in the office. They provide all the documentation, which we scan to New York State. They verify, and then they give them the Real ID. So.
And I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to get in soon or doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter right now. It's a 2 or 3 week turnaround. So.
Okay.
Just don't do it the night, you're getting on the flight and then want one. So.
So this Real ID thing, if you have a passport,
You're fine.
you don't need the Real ID
Right.
necessarily.
The only
Okay.
thing, it's easier to carry a
Right.
license than a passport on domestic flights. I have a passport card I use, and it's just a little card, looks like a license, and that's Real ID compliant, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lee?
With your over target request, Maureen, obviously, purchase of the software and the conversion covers the 70,000. What's the ongoing?
The 70,000, that's why we did one for the one time and 70 for the support for the ongoing.
So the maintenance for this
Yeah.
new software will run
70.
you 70,000 a year.
Yeah.
And what is it for exactly?
So it's our main county clerk software that we currently have. And instead of being stored here in the county on the servers and then IT having to take care of all the networking and all the servers and the storage of all those images, it'll be stored in the cloud.
Okay, so less stress on our
Yes.
IT department
Yeah.
as part of that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have Randy and then Greg.
Hi, Randy.
Regarding the software again,
Mhm.
so it's not new software, it's software you have currently, it's just a matter how you use it.
We'll be looking, we'll bid it and see what kind of software that we'll get. So we're not quite sure yet. I mean, we were looking for Tyler to work with Jay, but we weren't sure on if he was getting it or not when the state backed off. And so, we're just kind of looking at that.
Okay. Your revenues, I think originally you were hoping that your revenues would be up this year from house sales, but number of sales probably just didn't happen. So it looks like you're going to be under your,
I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it by the end of the year.
okay.
We used to, back in the old days, winters were quiet and they're not anymore. And I'm never, the end of the month, I'm like, wow, what happened this month? So it's just, I think we're going to make it this year. I don't see us making last year's number on mortgage tax, but it won't be far off.
Right.
Because the refinances are just not going to happen because it's not in your interest to refinance right now.
I don't understand a lot of revenue either. So then the last question, so you mentioned municipalities can you, or scanning documents, those kinds of things. How would I'm asking for the History Center in Newfield, how would they work a process with that? Would they have to pay somebody to do it, or they can come in and do it themselves, or if they want to scan documents?
Well, I've done it with the municipalities because I get grant funding for that. I don't know how it would work for them, but it's something we definitely have a conversation and we could store images for them and, show them how to do it.
Okay.
But we can look into it.
Yeah, they don't have anything stored digitally now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Greg?
Thanks. I always like to hear, as we continue to refine and improve our process, right, that it's generating savings, or if we can make an investment in technology, it's generating savings. So my question is, with this new proposed software, do you foresee there being future savings, or where in the budget would that savings lie?
I don't see it immediately. I mean, IT would have savings from for all the servers and the networking stuff they have to do. the products we're looking at would make it easier for all our law firms and banks and realtors and whatever, the public to look at it. It's a little easier interface on the front end. So we're looking at that also. The constituents expect us to be available 24/7 anymore. And so with our software, we currently are, but we would like to make it a little easier for them to use.
Right.
Because right now, as people will call, like if it's my mother, she'll call up and we have to walk her through it. We want to make it really simple. So it might just be more time savings for the end user who isn't paying for it, but
Yeah, I mean,
make their life easier.
yeah, no, that's a
Yeah.
good benefit
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the easier something is to use, the more people use it.
They do.
It's
Yeah.
a no brainer. Okay, anybody else? Well,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen.
Thanks for driving, Norma.
And thank you and your crew for your excellent work. All right, so our next presenter is our own Kathy Covert. And you will find her presentation on page 4-133 of your budget book. 4-133.
Thank you. I'll just begin with the recommended budget. Not a lot to say here, but I will comment on the revenue line. That's ARPA funding that was used for a deputy clerk position, salary and fringes. So that's why we are showing revenue. And then our over target requests, they've been recommended by the county administrator. The first one is to make the deputy clerk position we've had on the books for the last 3 years as one time to make that a permanent position. And the second OTR is an increase in membership dues for NISAC and the increase in our contract for our meeting management program. And our full-time equivalents, we have 14 legislators for staff. I'll just comment that in the budget, we also have $15,000 for travel and training for legislators and $11,000 for local mileage. Those are the highlights. And I really don't have anything more to say other than I just want to thank my staff, Katrina, Brittany, and Taylor. Their support, professionalism, and dedication is so greatly appreciated. They're a real asset to this organization, and I thank you very much.
I think one thing we need to remember as we slog through these seemingly endless budget meetings is that we couldn't do any of this without the clerk staff and our trusty tech person up there in the glass booth who just waved. Thank you. Okay, do we have any questions for Kathy? I see Lee and Greg.
Kathy, the 18 to 17, does the 18 for 2021, 22 include the 1 year or 3 year funding for the person that's been there?
That's correct.
So you're still down one position from 3 years ago, even if we make that permanent?
No, I would be up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't go
From
farther. You'd
3 to
be
4.
remaining. Okay. You'd be
3 to
remaining.
4 permanent positions.
Okay.
Okay, Greg, and then Mike.
Just to clarify, you said the other is local mileage?
I have $11,000 in the budget for local mileage and $15,000 for travel and training for legislators.
Okay, so I'm a little confused about the local mileage because we've had this debate going with Rick Snyder for a while now. And the finance staff that we're not supposed to claim local mileage.
The policy has not been changed to reflect that, so.
Okay, Mike?
That's not correct, Deb.
Okay, well, all I can say is that that's That's the position that was explained to me about why I couldn't claim mileage to and from ledge meetings. That according to the IRS, since we don't have, this is considered our office. So under IRS regulations, you are not allowed to claim mileage for commuting. And our travel between our homes and the ledge chambers is considered commuting, according to Rick.
I'll defer to Amanda.
Okay, Amanda.
Yeah, I think that's technically true. There is other mileage that can be claimed between, you know, you go to the library for a meeting and then you go to CCE for a meeting. There are other things that can be claimed. Technically, our policy does not reflect what you said. So people can still claim that mileage.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
You can follow up, Greg, and then I have a comment from Rich.
Where does that policy for legislators specifically exist?
It's in the administrative manual and the rules of the legislature.
Okay.
Okay,
And county law.
all right, thank you. Did you have something else, Mike, or were you just pronouncing on that particular issue?
Something else.
Okay, then you can speak and then we'll have Rich speak.
I certainly support continuing the fourth person for the legislature, especially if, as appears likely now, we're going to be going eventually to having, believe it or not, 16 legislators. The question I have is, where do we put this person when they're working? We don't have that many offices.
That's a good question. Right now, we've been sharing office space. Down the road, we could look at work schedules, flexibility with our schedules, and hopefully eventually we'll increase the number of offices.
I just think that's something we have to look at. We have to find some space somewhere for another person, whether it's downstairs, whether it's, I don't know, your office and the deputy clerk's offices are so small, you really can't have more than one person in them. But it is a real issue. And it was a real issue when we made the decision to move over here from the main courthouse. That there just wasn't room for that many offices that we need. So I just make that comment. Something I really think administration, F&I ought to take a look at here.
Thanks, Mike. That's a good point. Okay, I've got Rich and then Annie.
I had having had the joy of being on GO and talking about mileage
It is joyous.
at great length. I'm sorry to all the legislators who missed that opportunity. But
It's like missing a root canal, yeah.
But my understanding it aligns with what Deborah was saying, is that the IRS doesn't allow you to charge for driving here. You can charge mileage if you're going from here to a meeting or perhaps from your home to a meeting. But my question is, has that 11,000 been spent in the past years? Is that a good estimate of what the mileage has actually been?
Yes, and it concerns us a little because of the increased rate. We're not sure what that rate's going to be in 2023, but it increased substantially in July, I believe, of 2022. So
there has been mileage reimbursement in the order of 10K.
oh,
Somewhere
yes, yes. And sometimes we've been over budget.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting. Okay, so I've got Annie and then Greg wants round two.
Thank you. Just going off the last thing that was said regarding mileage, you know, if it sounds like something maybe GEO can take up again if we need to, or if they need to. But I would like to look at if we phase that out or stop doing that, that there's some other way to compensate those of us who when we are attending in person as we need to for our meetings from now on, except expanded budget, if there's some type of compensation or allowance for that. But what I really wanted to, my main thing I wanted to say was thanks to Kathy and Katrina and Taylor and Brittany for the great work that they do as our county clerks. And I wholly support having 4 full-time clerks, as Mike Lane said, especially since it looks like we'll be going to 16 legislators. So thanks again.
Thank you, Annie. Greg, did you have something more to?
Yeah, I definitely would like to look at this in GO, and I'm happy to bring it up again at some point and look at a policy revision. Again, I just don't think we should be doing anything that we wouldn't allow the rest of our staff to do. So if our policy doesn't mirror that of the transportation reimbursement for the rest of the county employees, I don't think our policy should be any different.
Fair enough. All right. Is there anything else for Kathy? If not, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
As always. And we will move on to our next presentation, which is from IT. You can find their documentation on page 4-113 of your budget book. And let's see, I see you, Lauren and Greg.
Good evening. Good evening. All right, just give me a second and I'll share my screen. All right, looks like we're ready to go. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let me advance this. We're going to kick off this evening with the major budget impacts and talk through some of these categories. And we're going to discuss specifically some of the topics and projects we've got going on and how they might impact the budget. To start us off, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren, who's going to give us an overview of the recent changes and directives for under the cybersecurity, which is the #1 area that we've been shifting our focus on these days.
Good evening, everybody. As you've probably heard, cybersecurity is pretty popular these days. So we're going to continue to try to enhance our cybersecurity footprint going forward. We have several things going on. We have a lot of work with the state and the Joint Security Operations Center coming up. And we've got a few vendors in line to help us with policy updates, patch management, etc. We also are bringing up some of our staff internally to help in the cyber patch management, different arenas to kind of just try to stay one step ahead. We can come in the morning and, our day gets shifted because there's a vulnerability. And, we may spend all day, patching and chasing those vulnerabilities. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing in the cybersecurity reign next year.
The other big thing that we're working on in cybersecurity is, as well as that is the Office 365 governance. I think it's an important one to understand that at the start of the pandemic, it was close to when we started to roll out Office 365, but there's a lot of value that we've gained from making that move before the pandemic. But now we're reevaluating how quickly we've jumped into the arena and are sharing documents across Office 365 and need to set some boundaries and standards that govern that in the future for the county departments and users. And we're working with a vendor now to help us through and navigate some of those discussion topics that we could better define and work with the departments to do so. So big efforts in cybersecurity. And the major budget impact or shift is one related to personnel. And you're going to see that associated with a request for a new position for a microcomputer specialist. If we were able to achieve that, then the two people that are responding to those daily work orders can shift half their time each to helping with cybersecurity as a daily process instead of responding to situations as they come up on a daily basis. So we would rather be proactive instead of reactive in that world, and we need people to do it. The next big category for us is the HR Payroll Project. So for those that we've been involved in ITS for many, many years in the payroll process in the county. And recently in our shift to the UKG product that we've been working on over the past 3 years, we've been shifting some of that responsibility and process requirements to the other departments that are involved, payroll or finance and HR, and continue to do so, making a lot of progress. And we're really close to achieving that transition. But there's ever changing things that need to occur in HR payroll as well. A couple of those recently that have come up. The big one is the Board of Elections. So we had to onboard about 200 new employees into our system. That leads to a significant cost increase, and that's part of the OTR that you'll see out there. The other thing that is going on is that there's an OTR that you may have already reviewed with the finance department that dedicates a new position that is just entirely the requirement of that position is focused just on the HR payroll system and the communication with the departments to improve the use of that system. In addition, that on the ITS side, you'll see an OTR for a half-time position for an existing or a retired employee of mine who has been working in the payroll process for over 30 years. And she's been helping us through the course of the implementation after retirement on a part-time basis. But we hope to have her through the course of the next year at just a half-time position. The other big change for us is shared services, particularly in the world of GIS. We've been doing a lot of shared services with the city of Ithaca in particular for GIS, but we've migrated a lot of those services to the cloud through the software provider known as Esri. And that allows us to renegotiate or end the shared services arrangements for GIS with the city of Ithaca because they are also moving to the cloud. So we are kind of moving in our separate directions. So part of what the budget for next year for us is a reduction in the revenue that we would normally get from the city since we're going in our separate contractual ways for GIS in the future. And the last one I'm going to pass on to Lauren as well.
Centralized computer procurement and increase in work order. So we're in our OTR, we're going to hire a microcomputer specialist if it's is approved. And we've taken over the centralized computer procurement. It has been a decentralized process in the past where departments had to budget for their computer replacements. And we decided that bringing that centralized will make it a little more equitable for departments when it comes to replacement. There's some departments that tend to budget and do real well at replacement, and others that may take that out for quite some time. So centralizing, I think, we've got some departments that we're going to have to immediately respond to. They've got some older machines, but we're hoping to get in a standard life cycle of 3.5 to 4 years, to swap machines out, and looking forward to that project next year.
One of the next things we wanted to show you are some of the stats that we keep in our work order system to show you some of the details about the increase in work orders that we've seen over the past year and a half. And this graph represents what we're seeing. The bottom line is that we've measured a 41% increase between the same quarters, quarter one and quarter two, from 21 to 22. So The numbers on the graph, 732, 859 as examples on this graph represent the total number of work orders per quarter. And those are related to account management work orders and service requests, which are general, break and fix types of work orders or replacement of equipment. So you'll see at the quarter three, 2009, at 741, that's the start of the pandemic. And we got hit with many work orders, a huge increase because everyone was working remotely and we had a lot of work to do to work with end users to configure. But since that time, it dropped and then it's been going up steadily since this point of time. So there's just a lot more activity in the work order process. And another reason that we're requesting an additional position for a microcomputer specialist to assist with responding to some of these work orders. Quickly then, on the recommended budget review, you'll notice first that the revenue line item dropped by about $10,000. That is indeed related to the loss of revenue from the shared services initiative with the City of Ithaca for under GIS. And we'll get into the OTRs in a second, but the target is then reflected here at $2,087,202. Advance then to the FTEs. You'll see that the target is 14 FTEs, which is where we are now. We're requesting a 0.5 one-time FTE for the HR payroll support for the employee that I mentioned that has since retired from the county. And the 1 FTE is for the microcomputer specialist. That is microcomputer specialist is the number 1 priority for us for OTR. Number 2 is the one-time half-time position for the year of 23. And the other increases are related to service contracts. Primarily, the first one here is the increase in costs for the HR payroll system. And after we resolve the budgets for this year, it's likely that we're going to make a move to redistribute the cost for that software from ITS solely to the departments HR and finance. So we'll shift the money from ITS to those departments since they're closer to the software and the use of the software as well. And GIS is just a reflection of their move to a cloud-based solution, which has a higher annual cost than the cost that we pay now for on-prem support of them. And that's a very complicated thing to support in the world of IT. So we see a lot of advantages to moving in that direction. They're about 3/4 of the way there now and ready to make the next big jump. That is the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop my share now and open it up to any questions.
Before we take questions, I really want to compliment your department for how it's gotten us through the last couple of years. It's just been a dumpster fire of rapid fire changes in how people do business, and the demands that that's put on your people have been considerable. And we really thank you for what you've done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been quite the ride the last couple of years and adapting to the changes, but I think we've held up and done it pretty well.
It's more fun when you put your hands up in the air. Does anybody have questions for Greg and Lauren? Greg Mezzi.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I just want to go back to the work order increases and the additional need for staff to support that. Are there other investments or purchases that would help reduce or be even more impactful in the work orders that are being put in? To see such a significant spike, is equipment aging faster than planned, or
We can take this. I think we're also having to support remote work. So I think there's an increase in that as well. People connectivity issues, VPNs, and I think that we're seeing those increases. I think we're also seeing a little bit more turnover these days. So having to redeploy accounts and set up machines for new people. So Greg, I appreciate that, but I think we're going to see how the new computer centralization goes, and then we may need some additional stuff.
Would this be better as a position is really sort of in a way in perpetuity. Would this be better as a 3-year OTR or something like that to look at as remote work becomes more and more normal and our systems are better able to support it or people are more comfortable with it? Is this something that do you always see a need for this position, or is it something that in the short term could sort of burn off the need as we acclimate to the new environment in which we're in?
I think we're always going to need this position, to be honest. Providing this position actually frees up some of our other workforce that we need in those other areas, like cybersecurity and patch management and the day-to-day things that come up in those arenas.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Randy?
Yes, thanks, Greg and Lauren. My questions, Greg took some of mine, so thank you. Is on the GIS line, and looking at that, it's a 90% increase in the last 3 years as far as your budget. And I'd just like to understand more the value of that.
Sure. Randy, what you're seeing there reflects the movement of 2 positions from other departments into the ITS budget in the past year. So there was 1 full-time GIS position in the planning department and 1 full-time position in the assessment department that were centralized under ITS. There were existing positions in other county departments.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I have Henry and then Rich.
Yes, the move to the centralized purchasing, you talked about fairness. Will that also say, what are the other benefits, and will that save any funding over a long term?
I think one of the bigger wins for us for the centralized computer is patch management and cyber, because what we're finding is the departments that were keeping older Windows 7 machines and didn't budget to upgrade those. We were really having to put some pressure on them to do that because Windows 7, those older operating systems aren't supported. So bringing that in-house and managing that centrally, I think is really going to help with making sure that people have the latest and greatest and up-to-date machines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rich?
Thanks. I just want to make sure I understood this rate. Your narrative says that devices have been changed at greater than 1/3 per year. Is that at one time? Is that anomalous, or is that ongoing?
The replacement cycle of computers?
Well, let's see, it says deployment and replacement of over 1/3 of end user devices per year.
Yeah, so 1/3 of our computer fleet in the county per year. So every 3 years to be swapping out the whole fleet.
Ouch.
Is that uniform best practice? Or it seems like we should get more than 3 years out of a computer, but maybe not.
We typically do. That's the ideal because the warranty period ends after 3 years for our workstations or devices that we buy. So we kind of budget around that, but often it's the case that devices are pushed up to 4 years.
Is there a program to sell them on the market and get some value back, or do they really not have value after the 3 years?
typically they don't have any value. I mean, if we're not going to replace computers that are, I would say, in that 3.5 to 4 years, if they're still going strong, as long as they can continue to get, the updates, the Windows updates, and continue to operate, then, it isn't necessarily a 3 years and we'll replace it. I think that's the goal is, between 3 and 4 and to get on that replacement cycle. But, we've got a little bit of work to, in the next year or two to even get close to that. We have some departments that we really need to replace all of them because they're 5 years old. So I think it's going to take us some time to get there.
Thank you.
Yeah, there'd be another problem too. I think if you tried to sell them, you've got to go through the process of wiping them, and that's a hassle. Randy.
Yes, the procurement of the all the devices, where does that budget live? Is it part of a capital budget, or does it live with each department as far as expense?
It used to live within each budget's operational side, but we've shifted it over, are proposing to shift it over to a capital account under the IT department.
Okay, Lisa.
I could maybe provide some additional context. So this year, with the change in the rollover policy, this procedural change to centralize the computer procurement and put it under a capital program came in concert with the change in rollover. We found that some departments were budgeting annually in their computer equipment line in their operating budget to maintain their computer replacement schedule. Many departments were doing it kind of on an ad hoc basis using rollover funds, and some weren't doing it at all. And with the advent of major cybersecurity threats, and with departments stating that if we remove the rollover policy, it will reduce their ability to provide for regular computer replacement. This was discussed as an alternative for multiple reasons, but one, to standardize the equipment that's purchased through ITS to make sure it's compatible on the county's network. Two, to make sure that it's regularly updated in terms of best practice, starting with the oldest inventory, the first, to make sure that our cybersecurity threats are addressed. Three, to take advantage of bulk purchasing and hopefully reduce expenses in the long run. And to take advantage of any kind of discounted rates that we could take advantage of. And also just to make sure that the department that has to support whatever is purchased is the one involved in the purchasing to begin with. So those are some of the rationale for changing it to a centralized model.
I'll add one more to Lisa's comments, and that is that it allows us to have an inventory for the immediate deployment of laptops and workstations if something fails, or there's a need for individuals to work from home and they only have a workstation. So we ran into some complications at the beginning of the pandemic for that. And we don't, sometimes the delivery of new computers is delayed these days because of the supply chain problems that we're having.
Okay, anything else? All right, I think that covers ITS. I really appreciate your presentation. We've had a lot of good questions and discussions, and I hope that you two will enjoy the rest of your evening more than we enjoy ours.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on. Next, we'll be hearing from rural libraries, and their presentation can be found at page 5-25 of your budget book.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Glagowski. I'm the Executive Director of the Finger Lakes Library System. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. We have the majority of our rural library directors. So I'm going to turn it over to Diane Pamel to do our PowerPoint presentation for you, and then we're all going to be available to answer any questions or comments that you might have for us. So.
Thank you, ladies.
There we are. Thank you, first off, for allowing us to do this presentation virtually. We've had a lot of issues trying to get everyone together. So we really appreciate your letting us meet you in this way, though we miss seeing you all and finding parking. So anyways, my name is Diane Pamel. I'm the library director in Dryden at the Southworth Library. I don't know how to point to anyone, so we will just figure out how to introduce ourselves virtually, but we've got Sue Chafee, who's the director at Newfield. Susie Gutenberger is here from Lansing Community Library. Laura Muehlenhausen is here from Trumansburg, Ulysses Philomathic Library. Sarah, I didn't see if Sarah Noble was here yet. No, from Groton. And of course, you've met Sarah Glagowski. So thank you again for letting us come and give you our spiel. We love to talk about our libraries, and we love to be able to do all that we're doing for our communities. So our communities are the most important things to us. We were fortunate in that we were able to disperse COVID test kits, masks, and information in collaboration with the Tompkins County Health Department during the pandemic. And it's still, we have dispensed so many masks. We're thinking it's over 5,000. And I still have several people coming in every day for COVID test kits. So we appreciate being able to do that. Rural libraries in the communities that we're in provided vital internet connections, remote access. We loaned out mobile hotspots and helped people. We opened safely, and you can see we took our programs outside in the snow as well as in the parks and other places to meet people where they were and help them feel safe. And continue to look at how we can meet the various needs of our communities, whether it's providing food. I think every one of us was a summer lunch and food distribution site. And we did take-home crafts, loan tablets, computers, and yes, air fryers, telescopes, and puzzles, among other things. Some highlights that we wanted to present: Groton Public Library had a major construction that was able to finally be completed despite COVID. In the midst of COVID, doubled their size. Ulysses Philomathic was able to, we greet a new library director with tons of experience and great ideas. Lansing is preparing for a construction project. Newfield took their library out of the box again, collaborating with the town and the school district to get all those kids in Newfield to a summer camp. And we, as we mentioned, among many things, we have a library of things where you can get an air fryer or an Instapot if you want. So we took a few numbers year to date, put them all together and added them up. Over 7,000 borrowers, 175,000 plus items circulated, 55,000 plus visitors to our libraries. The computers continue to be checked out. Over 880 programs with more than 15,000 people coming. A huge number of participants in our summer reading programs this year. I think at least 3 of the libraries tripled their numbers for summer reading this year. And of course, digital books and digital audiobooks continue to be increase in their checkouts. Just a snapshot of our funding. We know there's some new folks that haven't met us yet. So basic operations, keeping the building open, keeping the staff paid, comes from funding from the county. Thank you very much. Often from town and local government, school tax ballot funding, fund drive campaigns. Some of us have endowment income or membership income. For all those programs that were mentioned, almost all of it is paid for through grant funding that we pursue for our libraries and our communities. For all the libraries, more than 46 grants were applied for and received, with over $150,000 received for those special programs and events. So our budget figures are what was recommended, about a 3% increase. And that is, hopefully, that's just going to do us just fine. So we continue, of course, to have challenges. Staffing costs continue to increase as minimum wage and living wage increase, as well as challenges of getting staff and getting staff to be able to stay. Technology, as you heard from the ITS guys, continues to be a need for us. Even more so as more people went remote during COVID and like that and want to continue things in a digital world. So we have the hotspots, the telehealth kit, and different things like that for remote access. We found that community-based meeting space is a huge need everywhere, and often the libraries are used for that. And another challenge that we will see and rise to meet is the number of people that now expect streaming for video and audio and other formats. So we have that section of people who are going digital, and then we also have all our folks who rely on older technology. So we're balancing both of them, which does have a financial challenge for us, but looking forward to figuring that out in the future. So we just wanted to give you some snapshots of some of the cool things that have been happening in all the libraries, whether it's dogs or kids reading, or as you can see, we are getting crowds of people in the library again, which we're very happy about. School visits, backpacks being distributed, and food. So we hope that you all get a chance to come and see your local rural library. And we'd love to have you anytime and probably feed you. So that's us.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for our rural librarians? Randy?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Our town libraries are very important and quite often the only community space that is available in our towns when the school is closed, which is half the year. But I have a question for the Enfield is trying to start a library up, and it's run through their community council, so it's not its own entity like probably the other libraries. Is there any assistance for them or guidance for them to expand their library?
Yes, there is a process in place to become a library. There's a process through the state library and the Board of Regents to be able to be a library in New York State. You have to have a charter that is given to you by the Board of Regents. So oftentimes what you will see is exactly what is happening in Enfield is it starts as more of a reading center or something of that nature before it becomes a full-fledged library. So there is a very strict legal process of becoming a library in New York State that if Enfield would like to become an official public library, and by public I mean any sort of library in New York State, there's a process that has to be gone through with the state library, Finger Lakes, and the Board of Regents to become a library.
Is there a minimum number of hours that have to be open, those kinds of things, or?
Yes. So first of all, what the state would be determining is the charter area to serve. And all of that is based on population. So hours, education requirements of a director of a library are all based on your service area. So there are certain minimum hours for, different populations, et cetera, as well as certain education requirements, whether it be a high school diploma, 2-year, 4-year, or master's degree for a library director. But that is all based on the service area or population.
So if they wanted guidance, they would contact the Finger Lakes Library System?
Yes, the first step in becoming a library is to contact a library system. So it would be us, the Finger Lakes Library System. And then we work in conjunction with the State Library and the Board of Regents for chartering purposes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other, Mike Lane?
Libraries are near and dear to my heart, as I know they are to many of us here. I always declare every year that I'm a trustee of the Southwark Library Association. This year, I've been the acting president until we finally find a full-time president. Not full-time, but full-time person to do that. That is an unpaid position, just so everyone knows that. What our rural libraries have done through the pandemic, along with TCPL, and what the Finger Lakes Library System has done to support them. And not just here. We're very lucky to have the Finger Lakes Library System have their headquarters in Tompkins County. There are, Sarah, what are there, 36 libraries in your?
33. Yep, 33.
Libraries. Okay, I wanted to give you 3 extra, I guess. They're quite an operation up there. And certainly that's something that I'll bet Sarah would be glad to give you a tour sometime if any of the legislators wanted, particularly the new ones, would like to see what they do up there. And one other thing I want to say about the rural libraries, they help us be a better community, particularly with issues of diversity, inclusion. The programs that they put on, it takes a lot of work for the library directors and their staff to put these programs on. They talked about these grants, but they're not very large. They're very small. They're allowed to bring in people who can talk about things. I happened to attend one not long ago, which had Native Americans coming and teaching the crowd about lacrosse and the making of lacrosse nets. And they talk about issues with the diversity of people. Those things are teaching our young people the value of every one of us and the value of working together. I just made a speech. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate.
Okay, we're
about
ahead of
this.
schedule,
And I
Mike.
want to say thank you to all our libraries.
I appreciate that. I think it's really important that we support these libraries as much as we can. And to that end, I'm going to ask you all a question that may seem like it's coming out of left field, but last night, our tourism program representative discussed an OTR that would increase funds available through a statewide community regrant program that's administered by our Community Arts Partnership. And in the write-up on that OTR, it mentions that a lot of the programming that occurs under this grant program takes place in your rural libraries. Is that the case? So would that OTR be kind of a backdoor way to help you all out?
Sure.
That's good to know. Thank you so much.
See a lot of heads nodding.
Good. Okay. Well, I think I'll support that one then. Thank you, ladies. I love the work that you do. And I see Annie's got a hand up.
Thanks. One of the biggest things I was going to say, what Deborah just said, I wanted to ask you about the community arts partnership program and how that would affect you. And I also think Mike Lane also talked about it, some of the programs. I don't know if those ones specifically, but I know a lot of the DEI programs, are funded through this program. So so definitely I will support that being put into our budget and hopefully that will go through. And I also just want to thank everybody for the work that you've done, not just in COVID, but since that's in our most recent memory, that really libraries have just risen to the occasion and helped our community, like you said, with food, testing supplies, masks. And I know people around my community, initially they were asking me, where do you get that stuff? And now everybody knows, oh, you just go to your library. So thank you for helping us so much with that really just truly being an integral part of the county. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
It's Susie from Lansing here. I was just going to say just a little bit about the community arts partnership grants. I think what most of us tend to use it for is it's not a lot of money, but it's invaluable to the libraries that we apply. I apply during summer reading, and they pay specifically for arts programming. So I can have a cartooning for kids class. I can have, this year we had circus culture come, and we can have, it's specific for arts to have working artists come and we have the Merry-Go-Round Theater, now the Rev Theater, do a play. And that's really invaluable, that partnership between us, the Community Arts Partnership. They can help us find the artists that we need. We usually base our programming on a theme for summer reading, and they'll help us with that and give us support through that grant process and support with helping those artists. And then it's generally local artists that we're supporting and exposing our rural kids to that don't always have time or can't get into Ithaca maybe to see the circus culture or to go see a play. So just a little bit more on that. And thank you guys for all your support.
Thanks, Susie. It's a way to expand your ability to present programming to your communities, and we appreciate that. I think Greg Mezzi has a question.
Not really a question, more of a statement. I thought I was really struck by this library of things. Each time a library presents, I'm more educated and informed of the unique types of programming, the unique types of lending that are taking place. And I think that's really great. I remember when we had one library presentation about some, tax support for adults and just really I just want to reiterate, and I don't think you probably have a bigger fan than Mike Lane when it comes to libraries. I know and Amanda and now probably the rest of us, but I think it's great work. I think it's really important work. And it's exciting to hear that it's just so much more than what I think a lot of people may think of when they just hear library. So as we can continue to spread that good word throughout the community, I think you guys are doing a great job. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. I will add that as we all look at COVID and all the horrible effects it had and still has, one thing it did was really get us all thinking outside the box. So things like doing programs outside in the snow, in the park, or loaning out air fryers or Instant Pots. It's just expanded kind of our whole way of doing things. So yay for COVID, right?
Every cloud has a silver lining, I guess. Yeah. Okay, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for the work you do. Thanks for your presentation and loved your photographs. So have a great evening. And we here will be moving on to the Tompkins County Public Library.
Changed, didn't it?
It changed?
Yeah, we got a new sheet.
Oh.
We're up to Tompkins Community Action.
Oh. I wish you wouldn't do this to me.
Yeah, I think the director got COVID, so.
Oh, no. Yay, COVID, huh? All right. Tompkins Community Action. Take it away.
Okay, let me just bring up my screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Danielle Harrington. I'm the Executive Director at Tompkins Community Action. We're a private nonprofit charitable organization working towards a mission of collaborating with individuals and organizations to sustain and improve economic opportunity and social justice for families and individuals impacted by poverty. We implement 14 programs that partner with more than 5,000 low-income individuals in Tompkins County, and we work with numerous community partners. We have a talented and dedicated staff team working together to maximize benefits for each household. To do that, we have family services that provides children and families with educational programming, support services, opportunities to socialize and build family goals. That's through our Head Start and Early Head Start program, so birth to 5 years old. And then we help with the transition program, primary school family support, that helps the child when they graduate from Head Start, move into kindergarten or UPK in a successful way. Our goal is really to establish a foundation of lifelong learning where parents are the first teachers and families, guardians, everybody is involved. For housing services, we strive to meet the housing needs in the community by offering rental assistance and supportive housing programs. All of our housing programs focus on securing and maintaining safe, affordable, and appropriate housing. The rental assistance programs, still called Section 8, also known as Housing Choice Voucher Program, Solutions to End Homelessness, and Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program. And then our supportive housing programs, we have 5 sites in the city of Ithaca: Magnolia, Chartwell, Amici, the Corn Street Apartments, and also 40 units at Art House on Cherry Street. Our community services is our smallest section of the agency, but does equally important work with an emergency food pantry that helps alleviate some food insecurities across the county. We provide pantry staples in addition to fresh vegetables, breads, dairy products, and hygiene. People can access our food pantry up to twice a month, and we use an online ordering system so people can select what they want rather than just be given a box of food. And we try to tailor to certain diets, gluten-free, lactose intolerant, those kind of things. And then the picture is of our annual Victory Garden project, where we work with Cornell and volunteers from
your first slide, Danielle.
Oh no. Okay. 1 second, please.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why I struggle so much with this. Yes.
It's the tech trolls.
Oh, it happens to me every year. That's why I wanted to come in person. But still, here I am. Can you see the pictures of the plants now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully. And now I'm ready to slide into the next slide. Advance forward.
Not yet.
No. Danielle, we're seeing your the edit view, not the presentation view. I don't know if that's what you expected.
No. Let's see. No, it wasn't what I expected.
Though, don't worry too much about it.
So I'm hoping, let's see. Okay, I'm hoping that you can see. No, you can't because I can't see you. Okay, 1 quick second while I reshare. Oh, geez. Okay.
Don't worry too much. As long as you're on the slide you want to be on, I don't Seeing the little slides on the side.
Can you? Okay, thank you. So I'm hoping that largely you can see the impact of Tompkins County funds.
Yes.
Okay. So what I wanted to share with you was how we use the Tompkins County dollars as they come in. And that most important component is our federally required local match for our early Head Start and Head Start program and our supportive housing programs, which I mentioned briefly. Both of those large grants, the Head Start program is just over $4 million, and supportive housing brings over about $1.5 million funds through us. And we need to demonstrate local commitment and using local dollars. So we use Tompkins County funds for that, in addition to some support for our emergency food pantry costs that aren't covered by other grants that we use. In total, the county funds that we receive are about 3.4% of TC Action's total annual budget. And it helps move us forward and assist the community the best way that we can. These are our recommended budget numbers. I'm hoping that you can see that.
Yes.
Okay, so our 2023 target is the 265.78. And what I'd like to talk about next is our over target of 71,600 just one-time funds. This is our Dryden childcare site. It's in Dryden, of course. This is a snapshot of the early Head Start side of the playground. And then on the left, you can see kind of a snapshot of what I'm about to talk about. TC Action has been fortunate to be awarded both state and federal COVID-19 funding for 2 years that allowed us to do a lot of essential upgrades to our childcare centers to come into compliance and improve health and safety regulations as it comes in with COVID. We have 2 centers in the city of Ithaca, one on Hancock Street and one on Spencer Road. We have this Dryden site and we have one in Groton, and we have a small collaboration with Longview Senior Living. Wherever it was possible and appropriate, we replaced old windows, HVAC systems to improve their filtration recommendations. We added disinfectant tools like room foggers with the backpacks and sanitation cabinets for toys. We expanded our playgrounds to facilitate more outdoor socially distanced play, meal times outdoors, and other activities for families to come in for those socializations. With our playgrounds, we were able to address certain landscaping issues by removing trees and improving drainage. We did that at all of our sites. Most importantly, we upgraded our fall zone, which you can see in the blue surface area. And that we were able to make the playgrounds more safe for the children. Like I said, they're ages 0, infant up to 5, and staff. So as you might imagine, we experienced numerous delays and supply chain issues with our childcare center upgrades that made the whole project much more expensive than when we originally set up all the grants to cover costs. So the budget of just over $418,000 fell a little short. We've completed all of the work at the sites except for the playground at the childcare center in Dryden, where we still need to finish installing rubber fall zone surfacing and complete some brush removal, as you can see on the fence, that is creating some water drainage issues. And with the standing water comes a significant amount of mosquitoes and other insect pests. It makes for a great habitat for bugs, but not a great play area for children and their caregivers. So we've worked closely with TG Miller and Welliver to determine the best way to remediate this. The cost for completing the work remains at $117,418. We have in our budget left $45,518. We're requesting the one-time funds of $71,600 to complete the water drainage work, insect remediation portion of the project in Dryden, to finish the surfacing and finish the mitigation so that the outdoor space can continue to be used more and more. And without the over target funding, we won't be able to finish this part of the project. And then this was the over target. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I know that I kind of ran through those details really quickly. So please let me know if you have any questions.
Well, I think Shauna has a question.
Hello, I was just wondering, I know that we have many daycare facilities in our county. In my district, I have 2, and they still have plenty of needs. And there has been a shortage due to the COVID expenses. And I guess I'm wondering, I know that I've referred many of them to apply for our recovery funds. And I'm wondering why this might have been recommended whenever we're telling many of our other operators to go for COVID funds.
Yeah, so I can say that this project started with recovery funds, and that because of the supply chains and the goods and service delays, it ended up being more expensive than when we started it 2 years ago. And that's how we ended up here with this amount.
Okay. I mean, that's been the case with the other childcare providers as well. Is there a reason why we would look at TCA and some of their requests over the drop-in center, IC3, GX, Southside, Coddington? I guess that's a question for Lisa.
TCA came forward as a county-supported agency.
Yes.
Where the others that you mentioned don't have that mechanism to come to the county to request.
If I could also add, our child care centers and early Head Start programs are for families under 200% of the poverty level, and we do not charge fees to the families. It's just a program that's grant funded and completely no charge to the people that we serve.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda?
I think on a related but separate, maybe a separate time, like it would be good for me and maybe for others to understand. I guess there's always sort of this question of like, why do we have some agencies who come to us specifically, but then some go through the Human Services Coalition? And, I think there's a little bit of confusion about that. So that's not necessarily a discussion for right this second, but I would like to understand that more. And I know, the ones who do come to us specifically, like Tompkins Community Action, they have been for a long time. So I guess I'd like to know how that started and when and all of that sort of thing. So I'm looking to Lisa for future answers. But my question for you, Danielle, thank you for the presentation. I totally understand that costs have gone up. My husband is in construction. It's out of control. But $71,000 feels like a lot for some rubber padding and some brush removal. So I don't know, is there more to it than that, or?
Yes, I did simplify a bit. I mean, essentially, those are the main components to it. There's some more drainage excavation work and things like that to improve the water runoff from that playground area beyond the fence. So yes, there's a bit more to it than just the rubber and the tree cutting, bush removal.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, if I could weigh in, I know a couple of years ago, we redid the playgrounds in our village parks. And I was just gobsmacked by what it cost for the equipment and the materials they used for those fall zones and what it costs to get them properly installed. Clearly going to law school was a complete waste of my time. But anyway, yeah,
So I sympathize with Danielle's predicament. Does anybody else have any questions? Mike Lane?
Not a question, but I have to declare an issue here. Danielle has talked about this issue with the Dryden Head Start. That property backs up on my house property. This drainage area, this
So it's your mosquitoes.
this removal of brush would all be at the back of my property and the back of their property. I won't be discussing this any further, and I won't be participating in any vote on this.
Thanks, Mike. Just take your mosquitoes and go home. Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you, Danielle. We appreciate you showing up on such short notice.
Sure, of course. And I would just like to extend an invitation to anybody who would like to tour our main office, see a housing site, and visit the Harriet Child Care Center to get a sense of what the agency does. We're happy to do so, but thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Okay, are we back on the regular schedule with our county attorney?
Yes.
Okay, great. You can find that presentation on page 4-36 of your budget books. And Bill, you're on.
Thank you. This may be one of the more boring presentations you've had. We are a happy four in the county attorney's office. We don't spend much money. We spend what we have to do. Our budget, I think, is pretty straightforward this year. Looking to do anything terribly expansive. We might need a new computer at some point, but I'm not even sure about that. So as you can see, we have 2 lawyers and 2 paralegals, and go to work every day, we get it done. So questions? I don't know what I
Any
can say. Only have
questions for
4
Bill?
people.
Are you channeling Jonathan Wood right now?
No, is it that noticeable?
Jonathan was the master of crisp.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
Does anybody have any questions for Bill? Well, congratulations, Bill. Your presentation appears to be the shortest one this year. Oh, wait. Annie?
I just want to say, was that the best picture you could get of yourself in the legislature, Bill?
I don't know.
All right. Okay, well, thanks. You can go home now.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a presentation from the Board of Elections. Where are they? Are we so like far ahead of schedule that they're not here?
Yes. People. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
meanwhile,
weights and measures.
I think our weights and measures person is here. Yeah, well, come on over and we'll put you in right now and then you can go home early. The weights and measures presentation is on page 4-216 of your budget book.
Yeah.
For Ann Corman.
You can come sit next to Lisa if you'd like.
Yeah. With the candy.
Candy.
Yeah, sit next to the candy. That's always a good.
Sweet enough, I don't need it.
No, no.
No, I was just.
Oh.
It's a really-
I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you, Norma.
All right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Aaron, as you all know, Director of Weights and Measures. My 2023 budget, general updates, just to keep you up on what I do. 2021, 224 inspections were performed at 172 business establishments, with 95.7% of devices meeting design specifications and performing correctly. Currently developing, and I'm now entering data into a new Laserfish database to better track information for devices performing and keeping track of devices performing at a tolerance. In 2022, a new Seraphin 150 gallon prover was procured and certified, which provides a higher overall standard of accuracy when testing vehicle tank meters delivering home heating oil. Next slide, please. Inspection process, this might seem a little bit wordy, but there's a lot of stuff I look at like at a quick glance when I go to perform these inspections for consumer protection. First, the device manufacturer model are checked for design conformity against NTEP National Type Evaluation Program specifications. Then the device electronic audit trail and physical security seals are visually inspected to ensure no metrological changes have been made directly affecting the device accuracy and performance. Then testing is performed using certified field standards, and performance results are compared to tolerances described in the adopted version of NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology Handbook 44. After the device has been inspected and tested and is found to conform with the criteria referenced above, a vinyl seal is placed on the device indicating the device meets the specifications established by statute law. The result is consistent device performance, maintaining a uniform standard of accuracy, ensuring consistent, fair, and equal trade among businesses and consumers in an unfathomably massive interconnected web of commerce. You'd be surprised, like when you get out there and see it, it's daunting. Pretty much what you see up here, the revenue was increased in the 22 budget from 22,775, I believe, to an even 23,000. And that's for the revenue generated based on the inspections I perform. And everything else is pretty much right in line with previous budgets from years past. Does anyone have any questions with this? It's pretty straightforward, I believe. It's full-time equivalents, no part-time or full-time inspectors. It's just me, myself, and I. Next slide, please. And no target requests. On my updated version, I put yay with an exclamation point on that slide. So does anybody have any questions?
I think you missed your calling. Honestly, I loved the purple prose and the exclamation point and yeah, and the entertainment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Rich.
Thank you. That was brief and to the point. The 22 revenue seemed to be in the area of 56,000. Now it's at 23. And I was wondering what happened between 22 and 23 on the revenue. And it looked like your expenditures were.
Oh, that was based on, there was some ARPA funds, there was some over target request money, other than beyond the scope of that, there was some tax-based money that was applied toward procuring my new vehicle that's outside. So that's where that came from. Other than that, everything else is inspection-based fees.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Lee and then Mike Lane.
Kind of a target question, Aaron. You're a one-person shop. What's your backup if for some reason you can't perform for a period of time?
Well, I had surgery in January. I was out for 6 weeks and I've been behind the 8 ball ever since. And then things come up as we all deal with in our jobs. And, you know, these are things that approach us in an unforeseen fashion, and you don't have a choice but to deal with it. And when you have to deal with it, it takes time away from other responsibilities that are mandated by law. And so for that reason, I'm kind of behind a little bit.
Appreciate that. I just want to point that out to my colleagues that, you know, it's a small department and there's a lot of weight on shoulders. The other follow-up to it is that you talk with other, you know, how other departments are structured in the state. Do others have the consumer protections that Tompkins County has with scales and weights and bulk foods and some of the things that were done by special resolution here 20 some years ago?
There are some aspects of weights and measures law that is mandated to be performed, such as the commercial use devices. There's no way of getting out of that. There are some stuff that, though it is stated in Article 16 Ag and Markets Law, there is some stuff that is elected to be enforced based on availability to enforce it. And a lot of that is package checking oriented work. I try to convey it to people like this just to give them an idea of how much of an impact package checking can have. And I've used this analogy several times to explain this, and that's the use of coffee beans. Like, you go to Wegmans or Tops or whatever, and then not trying to call them out because they're actually really good stores, but just for an instance, like you go up and you get a pound of coffee, ground, whole bean, doesn't matter. You put it in your bag. The bag holds 1 pound of coffee. And say, for instance, the way that the scanners work on purchasing these, that they're set up so they're not taking tear out for the weight of the bag, and the customers are paying for the weight of the bag plus the weight of the commodity that's in the bag. That's not supposed to happen. And so when you figure a store the size of Wegmans, just as a for instance, again, I'm going to reiterate, Wegmans is a great store. When you factor in, probably a couple 100,000 1-pound bags of coffee sold in a year, and if there's not tear being taken out on that, let's do some quick math here. The normal tear on a 1-pound coffee bag is 0.02 pounds. Multiply that 0.02 pounds by 200,000 bags. And then multiply that by even your lowest unit cost of coffee per pound, say $4 a pound. And then holler that number back at me. And that will give you an idea as to the importance of package checking.
Thank you. I bring that up, just the value of the office is way beyond maybe what we see when we look at the simple budget and for what we have in there. Appreciate the extras that you do.
All right. Thank you, Lee.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Lee, because I know that a couple of years ago when Aaron first joined us, we were bringing him on as part of a succession plan for your predecessor. And I just wonder at some point if we ought not to be considering expanding the staff and weights and measures.
I think that'd be a great idea. One, as you just said, that there's an established means of succession, and there's obviously with everything we all do, there's field specific knowledge you have to acquire to do the job. I have and can create enough work for a full-time employee. I can expand my department to do field quality testing and not just meter accuracy inspections. And that's to ensure that you're basically, when you want to get your 87 grade fuel, you're getting your 87 grade fuel. When you want to get your 93 octane grade fuel, that testing ensures you're getting the 93 octane fuel. And if it doesn't, the tank gets pumped out, all the stuff happens, but it's to ensure you're getting what you're purchasing.
So I guess where we stand now is you can struggle through another year on your own, but we ought to really be considering next year.
Yeah, well,
I'm wondering why, given that you're a one-person shop and you've had a health challenge this year and you're struggling to make up for lost time, you didn't ask for more.
It is what it is. It simply is what it is. I mean, we all have to deal with hardships in our jobs, and things like, as I said earlier, they can blindside you, and if it requires action, you have no choice but to address it. And when you do that, it takes time away from dealing with other responsibilities.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be what it is my point.
very true.
So, I mean, I guess that's something that we ought to be thinking about, if not for 2023, then for 2024.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I have Mike Lane, I have Annie, I have Greg, I have Shauna. Did I miss anybody? All right. Mike Lane.
I just want to say, first of all, Aaron, I think you just demonstrated why we are so proud of our county employees. When you just said it needs to be done, what needs to be done gets done. And that's so important for the people of Tompkins County. Your department is our only consumer protection service that we really have. If Dooley Kiefer were still here on the legislature, he'd be joining what you just said and what you brought up tonight, Lee, that we do need a larger department. I thought we were going to get there when we did the succession planning. We went to a person and a half, I think, and then two, but unfortunately it just kind of went away after Aaron took over the job. We really should do this. His department is something we don't think about every day. And it's because, he has to be his own cheerleader, and he's kind of a stoic guy and just does his job. But I really hope our county administrator is listening. And I've made this speech before to previous county administrators, but we never seem to get there. But we need two people in that department.
Thanks, Mike.
Right.
Annie.
Thank you. And thanks, Aaron, for your presentation. I always learned something in your presentation, so I appreciate each year you giving us a little tidbit of what you do and how you do it. And I also just wanted to echo what Mike Lane and others said, that we've been saying this, at least I've been saying it, Mike's been saying it, and other people have been saying it for a few years, that you really need another person. And I don't know how to make that happen. I'd hate to push it off for another year, because consumer protection is important. And when that doesn't happen, our constituents lose and somebody else gains. So I would like us to see if there's, maybe talk at some point, whoever those conversations, whoever be involved, to talk about if we could do something, this year rather than push it off for another year.
Well, I appreciate your approach in that light. However, I think it would be relatively difficult to train someone to a level that I can trust to go out and perform the work in the field. Being that I'm currently in the process of developing and building a new Laserfish database program with county IT. And the problem with having to train somebody, as well as my existing workload and dealing with building and developing this Laserfish database program, is that if I were to start training somebody, well, now I've just spread myself that much thinner. And so this is a dilemma that needs to be discussed right now. Should I put my database to the back burner, trade somebody just to take the load off, or just deal with it, suck it up, and go for an inspector in 24?
So it sounds to me like you would prefer to get through the mess you're dealing with now before you have to deal with the mess of training a new person.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, Lisa, when she came to my office, she asked me if there's a possibility of a data entry specialist to come in and help me enter the data into this new software program. The problem with that is that there are specific notes that go along with each individual inspection, and some establishments have 2, 3, and sometimes 8 or 10 inspections in a single year, depending on what the dynamic was there and what I was looking at and what had to be repaired and whatnot. But
if you would rather wait till 2024, then tell us,
And it doesn't have to be now.
Yeah.
You could think about it and.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while.
3 more years.
Okay. All right, so let's let Aaron think about that. And meanwhile, Greg has a comment or a question.
Yeah, Aaron, thanks for the presentation. Is this the only Department of One in the county?
No, there's J.R. Claiborne.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, so there's another Department of One. I just think a Department of One puts so much unnecessary burden on that one person to carry. I don't want to use a pun and say the weight of the department, right? But I don't think it's fair to the employee, and I think that there's a need, and I would echo what my other colleagues said in terms of looking. It's not, you shouldn't, because you had to X, Y, or whatever reason, right? Shouldn't have to deal with the mess of it or having to have such a backlog. And I think we should do better by you, and I think we should help you and support you in whatever way makes the most sense for the department, the county, and then as you see that department.
So we're going to send you out of here with a lot to think about. Okay, Shauna?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Also, it doesn't have to be a full year. Like if you want to get it together as far as the data entry, maybe do that for 6 months. And then in June, decide to hire a person, whether it be part-time or full-time. That's also an option. I think what we would also have to consider is that we would have to provide a car as well, or a truck.
Yeah, I've already to some extent looked into it, just getting ideas, because like if I were to get an inspector, I would need a second vehicle, so that neither one of us are locked up in one place. Good luck, buddy, but like I don't want to have to get another truck. That's a 3/4 ton truck. It's expensive to operate. It's got a big motor, but it's necessary because of the weight I always have in it. That truck's carrying 1,000 pounds minimum at all times. We looked into an electrically installed device that applies electrical power to aid the drive shaft to help increase fuel economy. However, that requires removal of the spare tire. I ain't sitting on the side of the road like that. And so that's why I kind of shun that away, because when I go to Albany, I don't want to be stuck out there or something, having to wait when I got stuff I need to be available to go to now, you know what I mean? But so I was looking at an SUV. It's still got to be able to carry some form of weight. There are some places that are off-road. There are some mines, gravel pits, locations of that nature that the vehicle will need to be capable of traversing. And I don't mind a hybrid or electric, but it just has to have the suspension capable of traversing terrain of that nature. So.
Would that mean an amendment to the fleet program versus a departmental program now, under the way we're doing things?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Something to think about and how we structure.
Okay, anybody else?
So I want to be clear, just for Aaron to follow up, Mike Lane would probably be your person. Is that right? Weights and measures reports to F&I?
Yep.
And Michael help you along this fun journey.
Great. Thank you.
You've been volunteered, Mike. All right.
Got untold.
Shotgun.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Aaron. And thanks everybody for your thoughts on this subject.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks, Norma.
Good night. Okay, so Board of Elections, are they here yet?
They're on their way here. They were coming in person. They were scheduled for 6:50. It's 6:30-ish, so they should be here.
Okay, folks, why don't we take a quick break while we're waiting for them? And let me give you a heads up that at the end of this meeting, this is going to turn into kind of an ad hoc legislature meeting, I guess, and Shauna will be taking over. We are going to be having a short executive session to discuss contract negotiations, and I appreciate your willingness to stick with it. Thanks. I was told that that's what we could do, so that's what we're doing.
That we'd have to have
While
a
we're-
meeting and have to be noticed, wouldn't it?
Do you have to notice an executive session?
Yeah, because it's an executive session of a meeting of the legislature.
Well, this is a committee of the whole, so I will defer. I was told that this was permissible. I'll let y'all figure it out because I don't purport to know the answer. Rich.
Different subject. While we're waiting, Mike Sigler and Arel Lamoro and I are going to be going with the sheriff to see the Shenango jail tomorrow. We're leaving at 8 o'clock. If anybody was interested in taking that trip, it's just that one. It's not the whole day.
Okay. So we're just taking a break for 5 or 10 minutes.
We're muted.
Just received a text saying that the legislature chambers were muted.
Okay, well, Rob is going to take care of that, right?
Good to go. Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
On now.
Wonderful. So our election workers, for each election, we have about 175 that we bring in, divided between representing Democrats and Republicans. This year, the pay rate was increased to the living wage, and that's to follow as the living wage changes. And we just, this year, because we had so many elections, we made 150 of these election workers actual county employees, which was a monumental task for our office, for human resources, finance, admin, all of that. But we got it through. But even though we have all of these people, we still struggle sometimes to get poll workers, enough poll workers to staff all the poll sites. And an idea that would be lovely is, and I know some counties do this, that each department has one or two people that could take the day to work the polls. Would just be however that gets managed financially. I don't know, we can discuss that, but I think that might be a cool idea. Our staff at the office, we have 6 full-time folks, the 2 commissioners, 2 deputies, 2 senior clerks. And then we have a number of part-time staff that are in around our busy times before and after elections. And then our tech staff up at our Hanshaw Road facility where all the machines are kept and the techs get all the machines ready and the bags packed and the machines programmed. We have 2 full FTE senior techs up there. That's divided into about 4 people. And then we have a number of, we call them junior techs, but they just come in around the busy times. And we also use some clerks. We've in our next slide, I can tell you. So I'll come back to the clerks in a minute. One of the concerns, or not necessarily a concern, but one of the things we're looking to for next year, once redistricting is in place, is that we will need clerk staff in the office to move everybody out of the database into whatever their new district may be, should things change. And that is a task where they are physically retyping, going into each voter's record to change the district they're in for whatever may change. So that's a little tedious. So we'll have extra folks doing that. I know. We will also have to be spending money on mailing information out to everybody who would be affected, letting them know maybe their poll site has changed. And based on whatever may happen with the redistricting, we may need to find new polling sites. And then, of course, communicate that with the folks involved. Come on. And then our new state mandates. Just this year, they put together a new mandate stating that we have to provide a postage paid return envelope for every absentee that we send out. But the state, there is some grant money coming to us to cover this year, 26,000. I think what I'm putting in, and it started from July 1st through the end of the year is when we can use the money, and or when the, what do you call it? When we are spending the money to get reimbursed. And I think we're already at about 15,000 for that. It also includes some other things, we have staff to help manage this too. And this rolling canvas. So previous years we had with absentees, they would come in, we didn't really do much with them until after election day. But now we need to be doing every time, twice a week, starting as soon as the absentees come back. We have folks coming in twice a week to canvass them, meaning they're going through to make sure that, the envelopes were the ballot is put in the proper envelope, the envelopes are sealed, they're signed, all of that. So we have folks coming in to do that. And that goes on until, after election. And then we're also needing to, when do we do these? We also are starting to scan those absentees and count them. We scan them on the day before election day, and then they can get tallied with election night results. And even after election day, there's still a time frame for absentees to roll in. So we're every day are counting them. And here's my counterpart now. She has stuff to say too. We can ask questions if I don't have the answers. Our budget, I have to put this down. Our budget went up, I guess with the budget, I would put it out to who anybody has questions on it, because I'm not sure. Other than you seeing it, what else you would need to know? And our staffing is, it's gone up, I think a little bit, at least as far as physical people, but I don't think that hasn't really affected our FTEs. Yeah, I didn't have that on here. So we have a number of clerks that are sort of at a 0.5 rate, and because we are elections, I guess with staff, with these extra staff people, we're at sort of a discounted fringe rate. So it's a little less than some of the other departments, I think. And the increase for election worker line that we put in is to help cover the costs of all our actual new staff people that work for the Board of Elections. And same with the clerk line. And I think that's it. Any questions? Mike has a question.
I have two questions. The first is, I know there's always been a shortage of people. It's been asked of me, is there any way to split the day in half so that somebody can work half a day and then somebody else can come in and work the other half?
Yes, that is possible. It's twice the amount of people.
Right.
But, we are open to that because we know it's a long day. In 2020, because it was such a very popular election, we had a lot of students work and 17-year-olds, and they can't work a full day. So they had a buddy. So a few sites we had, two teenagers split in a day. We also have every once in a while, husbands and wives split a day or neighbors split a day. And that's okay. And we welcome that. That would be a great thing.
It does increase the training cost.
Yes, it does increase training. It does increase the time spent on that, but.
And my other question was, after you canvass the absentee ballot, where does it go? Like, does it get put into a safe? Does it get put?
Yes. Yeah. We have in our room, in our office, there's a conference room that we use for the absentees that we have now. Because of this new mandate, we have the facilities come over and put on double locks on even the filing cabinets we're using. And then the door to the conference room is double locked, bipartisan locks on everything. So at the end of the night, and every single day during election time, everything's secure. And yeah.
Other questions? I just wanted to follow up on Mike's point when he raised the possibility of split shifts. Would that reduce the amount of money that each worker would earn sufficiently so that they could continue to be outside contractors rather than employees.
Yes, yeah, yes, it would.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? But we can't require that, can we?
No.
Yeah.
I think we're always wanting to get as many people as we can to do it and
Whoever wants it.
whoever wants
Yeah.
it, right.
Try to
And that's
meet
always
their-
the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did it for several years before I got elected and got myself disqualified. And I always actually really enjoyed it, but I know it's difficult. Thank you.
Yeah, finding folks is challenging some days. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Annie?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for getting through this year. I know it's been really a challenge with extra elections and changing the wage and all that stuff. I am hearing quite a bit. I mean, yes, it's anecdotal from when I go visit the boards of elections, because sometimes I'll do get the no stats at the end of the day, be a poll watcher, and I know a lot of people that work the elections. So again, but it's still anecdotal. A lot of people have been telling me that they would really like to, work not a whole shift, like a half a shift. And so, I mean, I hear you saying that it's kind of sounds like they'd have to make sure the other half of the shift is covered. But I've been hearing this for a number of years, and I know a lot of people that I suggest go be a poll worker, and they're like, there's just no way they could do 17-hour days. So
I wasn't suggesting that they have to find their other half, but that would make our lives easier. That was my.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. So then, just I know it'd be a lot of work to change, that, and, and like you said, to train probably twice as many people. But just, at least to think about it.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was nice to meet you, Tamara. Does your Democratic colleague have anything she wants to add?
I think she would love to.
Oh, well, sorry, I wasn't here when you started.
They started early.
We got quite far ahead of ourselves. That's okay.
Steve is doing well. If for anyone who knows, he's doing well, and maybe he's watching right now. So
I think he is, yes.
Say hello to him. But I guess the one thing that I would say about the extra workers is it is a really wonderful idea. And I completely agree with everyone that 16, 17 hours is a long day, and it's really hard. It does give us 2 times during the day where we're wondering if so-and-so, where's so-and-so at this poll site? Where's so-and-so? The beginning of election morning is frequently a mad scramble on the phone to find where our workers are. And not all the time. I mean, but
sometimes they're still home in bed because it's like 4:30.
Right. And that, yes. And that is, yeah. But in the afternoon, it probably wouldn't be as much of a deal, but it could add a second time during the day that we're focused on that. And it's also, all of this happens, I'm sure every department has something that they can equate to this, but everything is happening just at those last few weeks before November, first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. And to add twice as many training sessions conducted by the people who are charged with getting the machines ready and in a facility that is being devoted to machine testing and all this kind of stuff, it would be challenging. So I'm not saying it wouldn't be, but there would definitely be some
it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be able to rise to the challenge. It would just be some things that we would have to really get creative with and maybe ask for some help from the rest of the county.
Right.
For that.
So it's a solution that has its own costs, basically.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, ladies. I'm sorry we got so far ahead of ourselves and you had to hustle.
That's good for all of you.
Yeah, it
Move through
is.
things, yeah.
So have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the possibility of going into an executive session to discuss contract negotiations. Can I get a motion on that? By Greg, seconded by Veronica. Thank you. We will take a break for 5 to 10 minutes until we can shut down the tech, and we will not be taking a vote.
Go into executive session.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm not used to executive sessions on my watch. So all in favor? And Annie, how about you?
I can't vote remotely, I believe.
Okay, well, I don't know what the rules are for.
You can.
Today, not tomorrow.
Yeah, it's still the 12th, so.
You can vote.
It's not.
No, today's the 13th.
Oh,
You
God.
can still vote.
Still vote as long as your picture is there. As long as your
I
picture
think we
is
have
on
the
the
vote to
screen.
get in.
We
Your
have,
picture, your live picture or your
It's 13.
static picture?
As long as you're live, it has to be a live picture in order for you to be counted as an attendant. You cannot.
If I can vote, I vote yes.
okay, and I'm going to be taking a vote on whether or not I should just resign as chair of this committee based on tonight's performance. So, okay, let's take a break.
Well, wait, Henry had his hand up.
Henry, you're muted. Are you voting as well?
Yes, I'm voting yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's unanimous. Oh, my God.
That is what I'm.
So just